good because we have been doing a lot of webinars on inherited app, and like what do you do from the perspective of, hey, I just got this, what do I do? But the other side of it is, hey, I'm leaving or I'm changing to a different position. I need to pass this app on. What can you do to help someone else who's going to come in and take over an app? So, and Melissa's actually working and doing this as we speak in real time. And so I thought it would be really fun to have her come in and talk about it and also open up the floor to everyone who is, working through the same thing, going through the same thing, and would like to share or, ask questions and all that good stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and I'll pass it over to Melissa.
Hey, everybody, thanks for having me. And as Esther said, I am in a transition phase right now. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I put a little presentation together for you all. Just hope all of that works. Well, do it into present mode. Can you see it on your screen, Esther?
I see it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm using Canva. I'm going to keep it in this mode just because this is a casual conversation. But what I'm here to talk about today is how do you transition around
And Melissa,
and all. Yes.
sorry, would you be able to, I know you're going to keep it in this mode, but would you be able to go from 84% to like maybe 90, yeah, or something like that? Maybe open up the bottom. I think you can, yeah, I think you can open
Is
that up.
that helping at all?
I actually went down to 33, so if you want to open it
Yeah.
up to like nine,
Here we go.
maybe, that's a little better, maybe. I don't know if that's gonna change it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it this way. See how that works. How's
Oh,
that?
much better, thank you.
Much better. There we go. Never know with Canva. I've used both Canva and PowerPoint, so my apologies, folks. So just what we're talking about is transitioning a Quickbase realm to some new staff without breaking things. That's the title of my presentation is how do you do this without breaking things? So after 7 years of working for Neighborhood Legal Services Michigan, I am leaving the organization. I've been working with my executive director, boss, in starting a transition plan all the way back at January 1. And so I will be transitioning from the organization by the beginning of April. And there's been a lot of things about why that is the case right now. We are a 100% HUD funded organization. And just like a lot of organizations that are reliant on federal funding right now, it is a little bit of a difficult time. And so we are looking at all possibilities around being efficient with the resources that we do have. And so that's what we're doing. We're eliminating this position that I currently occupy, and we're going to break it up into multiple pieces. And that's the one thing that Esther was asking me about. She's like, "Do you know who the new administrator is yet?" And I'm like, "No, I do not." We're only 2 weeks away, but we're coming up with a plan. So this whole past few months, I've been working on a transition plan and trying to make sure that whoever comes behind me understands a little bit more about the applications that are sitting in our realm and that I've prepared them to the best of my ability in my absence in writing and in thinking and in diagramming that there's something for them to pick up and look at and try to understand. So just to give you some really quick background, our realm actually supports 3 different nonprofit organizations in Detroit, all with HUD funding and all with the requirements of producing HUD compliant, what's called HMIS reports. And so for all 3 of these organizations, I work with them to make sure that their application does just that. One of the applications, though, is the mothership, as I call it. It's the Neighborhood Legal Services Michigan housing application that I started building 7 years ago. And it does more than just HUD. As you all probably know, use cases expand on applications, and this definitely did happen with this one. So not only does it do HUD compliant reporting, it does financial workflows as well as case management. So it does a lot of work, and that's been helpful to think about all of the use cases as I've been developing this transition document. I've been doing 7 years of development and evolution with these apps. And I've grown up with Quickbase through this process, and Quickbase has changed. So, as you all know, I did build my first app all the way back in 2017 for a different organization. So, I've seen all the evolution from new form engine to new dashboards to a new way to document with application summaries in our app management area. So, I've seen all that stuff come into existence. So the ultimate challenge for me is how to transfer to a new administrator, and that's to a person that doesn't necessarily exist yet. So how do I do that? For me, that was really starting at the big picture. The documentation, I'm calling it the Quickbase transition documentation, it's about 7 pages that I've written. And I think it's not going to be any more than 10 because it's focused on the big picture. What applications exist, what do they do, how do they interact with each other, and most importantly, what external systems are connected. So those 4 big buckets equal use case for all of these things. So in addition to doing that, it was really important to me that I document the critical workflows. And the number one workflow, and you've heard me say it a couple of times, is the HUD reporting requirements. Those are something that change regularly in terms of what we call data standards. We were supposed to move to a 2-year kind of evolution with changes to that did not happen. We're back to kind of an annual change, just had a change this past fall. And it's really about how we measure things in the world of HUD. And so we're anticipating, again, our year is October 1 to September 30th. So next summer, we'll be anticipating some more requirements from HUD to make changes. And that really is mostly schema changes. It's, there are some additional fields that might be required for data entry, but I can say that most of it is schema changes behind the scenes, how we are calculating certain variables, certain values, what's the map, what's the universe, all of that behind the scenes. That's the data standards. So the second critical workflow is really looking at how we've used pipelines. And I use a lot of pipelines within Quickbase to replace automations. If you all remember our automation days, pipelines are the automation now. So I have a lot of pipelines that do that. I also have pipelines that do a lot of third-party integrations. I have integrated our main mothership app to QuickBooks Online. I've integrated to DocuSign. I've integrated another application over to Monday.com. So really understanding each of those critical processes and documenting that, saying, why do we integrate with Monday.com? Why do we integrate with QuickBooks? I mean, I think most people can assume you integrate with QuickBooks because it's a financial kind of connection, but folks may not understand, we actually integrate with DocuSign to manage our whole housing inspection process, which is a very different kind of use case for it, kind of a little bit of a rubber band duct tape approach to meeting our needs, but it works. So documenting that. And then most important and finally is all the add-ons that we use. We use the Juice technology add-ons. We use Excel docs in particular and custom code pages. Shout out to Dimitri. I saw you were on this. Hi, Dimitri from Cloudbase. So each one of the 3 apps that I manage for the 3 different agencies actually have custom code pages that Cloudbase built for us that connect to the Juiced Excel docs. So you can imagine when Quickbase acquired Juiced, I was being very thoughtful about making sure everything continues to work in our world because it's so reliant on the HUD reporting side of things. So the other thing that I've been doing in this transition document is simplifying the relationship diagram. And I was going to try to show our Let me see here. I'd have to stop share. I don't know. I want to be mindful of time. Can I show what our one looks like, Esther, real quickly
Yeah,
and show
absolutely.
simplify it?
Sure. Yeah, you
Okay.
can. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
let me stop share for a second, folks, and then I'll reshare. Let me pull it up. I think all of you have probably seen or know, or probably get anxious whenever you look at your relationship diagram in Quickbase. I know if I show you this, you're all going to be like, what? So this is the relationship diagram for my mothership application, the housing app.
Wow. Oh
It's
my
deep.
goodness.
And that it does not work for anybody. Don't worry about ever looking at here. So what I've done instead, and can you see the Lucid chart
Yes.
document now? Okay, all right. So this is Lucid chart. And so this ERD is I've used a layering approach with that relationship diagram. So if you are not using Lucid chart for complicated applications to really document your entity, I highly recommend it. And I recommend looking at their tutorials on actually layering your application. I can show you if you want to see a little bit here. Let me move this out of the way. Um, you can see some things just happened there when I showing some helper tables that I use. Again, using language that is very less technical, more common, like calling what are my helper tables? What do these do? These don't necessarily aren't scalar data that people put in. They help the situation of for reporting. And you can see I have them here in a little blue box, and I have that defined in a place. And that's, saying, okay, here's our structure, here's our library, here's some of our checks. So again, if you haven't used Lucid Chart, I would just highly, highly recommend because this over here is a mess. And I probably will get my wrist slapped from somebody at Quickbase for having an app that looks like that. But one of the things that I've learned in the last 7 years, if I had to redo this all over again, is to think more along the lines of a mile wide and an inch deep instead of an inch deep, an inch deep and a mile wide. It just, I really would rethink how I do these things and perhaps break out some of the use cases that Neighborhood Legal Services Michigan had. When I first started working with them, their very first ask was, can you build us an application that helps us cut checks to landlords more efficiently? That was the ask. And you're thinking, okay, that sounds pretty simple, but it evolved and morphed. And all of you on this call have been in that, I'm sure, where your apps have been asked to morph into some other use case. And that's exactly what's happened with the Neighborhood Legal Services Michigan app. So we have this whole HUD compliant, and then we have this whole day-to-day operations side. And I've actually designed the transition document around those two buckets too. And the future people who are going to be taking over this work are actually going to be thought of in those two buckets. The person who will be in charge of the reporting, and then there's somebody who will be in charge of the day-to-day operations. So if I redesigned apps today, they would be definitely two separate applications and not have as many layers. But we also know that, and this is something that I did put in my diagram, and I'm so sorry, I've got a doggo that just is deciding he wants to join the meeting here. I'm really sorry. You're all watching me be nudged here. Let me reshare here. Back to the presentation.
It's okay. We always love dogs
Yeah,
and pets of any kind showing
pets,
up.
children, you know how it goes. So let me get this going again. If I could put it in present mode, it's going to be cooperative with me because I do have some points about that. Here we go. Back to it. Okay. So obviously, I just showed you the simplified way. of my entity relationship diagram. So if you don't use the Lucid chart, I'm sure there's some other products out there that you can use to do that. But really making sure that the documents you're leaving behind really says who are the parents, who are the children, again, helper tables. And then the very last category that I have is what I call the do not touch fields. Now, it doesn't mean not modify them. It just means, don't delete these because they are really, really important to the overall application. And these are all my formula fields that, again, scope out from a reporting perspective who should be on a report. Very simple, like, should this client be counted in this project or counted in that project? So I have a series of fields that do that work. I also am documenting the risk areas. What are the things that are likely to break? What pipelines are dependent on external data. That's the integrations that I have with Monday.com and a little bit with DocuSign, but more with Monday.com. What are my complex formulas? And that's sort of back to that fourth area of don't touch these. So what are the complex formula fields that act like gatekeepers for different data? And then code pages and third-party add-ons. So documenting all of those pieces so that people understand it's not just, the application you're thinking about, it's all the potential that's connected in there. And here are some things that I wish someone had told me when I started this journey 7 years ago. Most importantly, reporting requirements will shape the entire architecture. That is exactly what's happened. And when I started building this thing to be HMIS or HUD compliant, I really had to reverse engineer it from some other existing work that I was familiar with, and just how much this controls what needs to happen. It was so, so important. So if I had to do it again, starting with reporting requirements, probably more than use cases. That might sound a little weird to you guys, but again, I would ask the questions is what reports do you need this thing to produce? In the world of HUD, that's how I would start. And then use case would be second. Temporary fixes often become permanent. I used to pride myself that I could quickly make a change. Oh, isn't this cool? And now, having done that, I wouldn't recommend, go a little slower. Recommend that if you do, do these temporary fixes, that you document inside of Quickbase. You document in the field description area. You comment out inside your formulas why you're doing what you're doing. Put a date in there. I didn't put initials in mine. I know some people put initials in theirs, but I was the only builder, so people know it's me. But temporary fixes off become permanent features. So document. Documentation should explain understanding, not every single field. That just becomes too overwhelming. And we've all seen different add-ons over the years who can give us documentation of our apps that will list like all the fields. Those are good, but they still don't tell you overall what is happening with that application. So you really need to be thinking about the person who's going to read your documentation. You want them to understand what your apps do. And then again, use the tools in front of you. Use the field descriptions, use the app summaries. Woohoo, app summaries. Love app summaries. That's a great thing. I'm so glad Quickbase is doing that or has done it. I don't know if everybody has access to that, or is that still beta, Esther? You know what I'm talking about in the app management area where you can generate a summary of your application.
Yeah,
I think that's
still
it's still in beta.
Yeah, but it's coming quick. But people are enjoying it so far. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, for everyone to have that being generally available, because it makes, again, life so much easier in terms of documentation. And then finally, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Quickbase. As I'm making this transition, I'm working very closely with my customer success manager to develop a supportive contract for some of the work that I've done. We have had multiple phone calls, multiple conversations about how to do that. So if you are in a transition phase as an administrator, leaving Quickbase or moving on, tap out to your CSMs. They can help you think through this process, or your salesperson, whoever your contact is at Quickbase. You utilize them as a resource. I found that to be very, very helpful, and just really, really great. So I put my LinkedIn profile here. You're welcome to kind of screenshot it if you want, because I will be moving on to other things, I hope, in the future that won't be with Neighborhood Legal Services. So if you have my email address, you can contact me more easily through LinkedIn. So that was very quick overview, but I think the big takeaways are: document for understanding, document the risk that where things can break, make sure you're thinking bigger than your app and all the possible connections, and use your Quickbase resources because they're there for you.
I love that. Do you happen to have a I guess a example of the documentation you've done? Is that something you could share or just kind of show what you're kind of doing? Because I'm sure people are curious about that. I know I am, but I'm just curious about that.
Yes. And so I'm an old-fashioned grant writer, folks. So I came to Quickbase as a nonprofit person. So I write and I read. That's kind of what I do. In addition to the lucid chart, which you saw, which will go in this thing, this is a Word document that I've prepared. And so let me share that with you. Get that up. Second, it's the same thinking. Okay, can you see a Word document on your screen?
Yes.
So here is the first transition document. And again, very short and sweet. Again, saying what the purpose of this document is, the system's overview. You can see that's one of the here. I'm like, I have a little note to myself because this is still draft. Put ERD here. That will be the link to the lucid chart. The core data architecture. Again, describing how things how they sit together. And that's really sort of a brief explanation of the ERD. This part doesn't make sense to you all, but it's how the data flows through the system. Again, sort of back to that reporting requirements being like the driver of these applications. I've tried to do a simplified form of some of the relationships as it relates to APRs. So this was, again, wanting to keep things really like succinct. Here is my beautiful list. Fields that should not be deleted. They can be modified. So here is that whole list of fields that are super important, and I say what they do. But again, this is documented inside of Quickbase too, but outside, again, when you're looking at just a list of fields in the field settings, they're not set up by priority. They're just one through whatever. So they will be able to look into the settings and find each of these particular formula fields and know what they're for. Again, integrations of pipelines. There's my risk areas, which you heard me talk about it. And then I did advice for the next administrator, which I just did for all of you. Take advantage of your Quickbase community, your Qrew events, the forum, office hours, customer success managers. So this is all there. And then I do have some troubleshooting guides for reporting errors, which again is very industry specific. But like, what are the problems that I see happen that I'm constantly having to go in and say, okay, where is this problem sitting? And 90% of it is user error. 90% of it is people not putting in the data correctly or missing data, which I think happens in everybody's world. That's like a very common thing. No matter how beautiful of a form we design, how many trainings we do, because I've been the training person as well, all of that doesn't, sometimes it just still doesn't hold up. Human beings are the most interesting factor in all of this work. And so we have to work really hard to make sure that we know where the error probably 90% of it sits on users. And then of course I have other things that I'm recommending in here. So it is a Word document. It literally doesn't have pictures in it. Maybe some other people would respond better to visuals, like actual diagrams, but I feel like the ERD is enough. And again, I welcome anybody willing to say, hey, Melissa, have you thought about this instead? I welcome any of your input. I have 2.5 more weeks to finish this stuff up. So if you have better ideas or have a good ideas about this work, I am so open to it. You know, think about yourself as coming behind me. What is the absolute thing that you would need to know in order to be able to pick up the work and, you know, get her done. So hopefully this has been helpful to you all. That's my ultimate goal always with Quickbase and this work is that I'm offering something that is useful. So feel free to ask me questions or tell me whatever.
Yeah, there's a couple of good comments here. Meg Cuny said that this as a document is such a good idea. Oh, somebody wrote something and I moved it. If they had a corporate AI tool, they could probably add this as a reference document for a prompt to work through questions by asking your document. Oh, yeah, that's a really cool idea. I love that.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Yeah,
no, that's really good.
that's a really good one. Have you done anything like that, Meg? Or I guess I've never done that. Like, here's a reference document. Please look at these things
Read it.
and make something. I haven't tried that, but if anybody has, I wonder how good that is. I'm
I've
curious.
tried it with some like specialty agents and it works great. AI can read PDFs or even Word documents really well, depending on the type of AI. But I've been kind of researching options to document everything I've built so far. I've come across like suggestions of a platform app, but I'm so glad I saw this, Melissa, because having this in words that an AI tool can digest easier, this is like a really great way to get all that knowledge to the next person.
Yeah, and I love that idea of using an AI agent. Do you mind sharing which specialty agents you're using that or
We're Procore users, and so we're connected within Procore, and they have an agent builder tool, and that's just where I've played around with like
okay.
they call them agent builder blocks. So giving the agent a PDF, which gives it some kind of guardrails and PDFs where it's only allowed to answer based on what it can see there.
Okay. Okay.
Nice. That's a really good tip. I love that.
Wonderful tip. I love it.
Yeah, and another one here from Hope Nielsen. In the past, I create a full notebook in OneNote with each of these sections and put a button link to the OneNote in Quickbase app. Oh, I like that.
I've used OneNote as well, and I do have a OneNote notebook that this actual brief document is based upon. So yes, absolutely. Again, just another tool. I wanted to make this readable for my executive director who doesn't use OneNote. Sort of outside of it, but yeah, OneNote is a great suggestion.
And here from Marshall, how would you recommend going through multiple apps and adding documentation, field descriptions to a lot of applications that have already been built?
You want me to go ahead and answer that?
Yes.
One of the things that I want to just caution everybody is, you know, very early on, you want to make a decision about naming conventions in applications and practices and processes that you use around documentation of the field descriptions. Make sure that, you know, if you have, and I'm going to date myself, folks, but they now call this the semantic layer to anything that you do, sort of the thing that explains what this is about. But in the old days, in old college days, it was called a code book, where you said, okay, I'm using this language to describe this field, and every field that has this similar language will follow these rules. So, for example, for HUD, my application has to produce something called an annual progress report. APR. We speak in that language all the time. So every field that's inside of all three of my applications because anything to do with an APR leads with the capital letters APR. And so again, any administrator that's coming behind me is going to know those are APR related fields. So you shouldn't mess with them, or if you mess with them, you've got to have a good reason for it. So naming convention and having your own, what is your, and I've been a single builder for so long. So some of you are part of teams. And so what is your team's naming conventions? It would be really important to have that. The second thing is how your apps look. You really want your end users, particularly when you're representing an organization, in my opinion, to have your applications reflect a commonality. So when somebody climbs inside an app as an end user, they don't really want to know, oh, this is Johnny's app because he sticks this up here, and that one's Mary's app because she sticks it over there. I mean, they're in terms of forms, in terms of view, in terms of dashboards, even coloring, the color of your dashboards. If you guys haven't, worked to make a theme of that, I think all that is really, really important. So that again, across all of them, we can normalize things to the best ability. And I hope I answered that person's question.
I just wanted to add two other things that tend to help. So one is that there's a great tool called Guide or Guide. I'm going to type it in the notes, that lets you really easily make videos, and it is much better than any of the old-fangled tools where you spend a lot of time editing. And then the second is that it's now possible to use an MCP server. Sounds really complicated. It's just like an AI empowered API. And that also is great for searching Quickbase apps and helping people understand how to build them.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Thank you. It looks like Dwight also added something as well, something more advanced. I don't know if you want to come off mute just to kind of explain this a little bit as well.
Yeah, you can. Well, one, something I'm gonna be working on probably this weekend is putting TV on a laptop and then running Obama, getting my own AI YouTube documentary.
Ooh, it's kind of hard to hear you. I'm sorry. So, um, uh, maybe it's me, but
No, it's difficult to hear him.
Oh, I see. He says once I spin up a new laptop with
Ubuntu.
Yeah. So I'm essentially. Can you hear me now?
yes.
I'm gonna put a new Linux distro on a laptop that I'm gonna just use as a project this weekend, and I'm gonna put Olama in a Docker container and create my own AI agent that I can train and just run locally. It doesn't go out to the internet or anything. And I'm going to feed it documentation on different apps and everything and workflows and see if I can train just a local AI agent for like training purposes. But if you have access to something like ChatGPT, you can follow the other method there and you can create one of the app summaries, and then feed that into ChatGPT as a project, and then you can have it do an analysis on your app, to provide even better documentation or to do like performance analysis and have it give you ideas on how to improve performance in your app.
Very cool. Yeah, well, keep us updated how it goes after this weekend. I'd love to
Definitely.
know what has come of it. And I do know, yeah, I know that our product team is working on doing a lot more to help within the app to be able to summarize a lot of items as well, so doing this part where you're summarizing, getting the app all, ready to go, ready to share, and getting people to understand what it's all about is going to get easier and easier. And I think, part of it is because we have these AI capabilities. We're using them very smart as well. So it's going to be all included. So love that everyone's like trying to find pieces outside and inside Quickbase to make this
Yeah,
happen.
and I was just going to add to that. Don't underestimate the power of just good old fashioned using the tools and within Quickbase to do things. I will say that I'm from the days where they called us citizen developers. I don't know if any of you were around Quickbase when that was the language used to describe us, where we were not IT people, we're not people who know, Linux or Python or anything. We're people who had a use case and came across Quickbase and saw that it could help solve that problem. And so I am assuming the persons coming behind me are people like that because of the industry that I'm in, which is the not-for-profit world. We're a different set of creatures. We often don't have the resources to have, a full-time, computer science engineered professional on staff. We're very different. We're a lot of social workers in this business, a lot of people who want to make a difference in their communities. So they're coming at it from a very different skill set. So I just caution, think about that when you're putting your stuff together for the people behind you, that they have to be able to absolutely 100% be able to use it, and testing the reading level of your documents. I've already done that. I know that sounds kind of maybe silly to you all, but I I think it's important after all these years now of training people on how to use Quickbase, trying to really meet them where they're at. I'm just assuming that I'm going to need to do the same with the people behind me.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And I think it's always good to think about, putting yourself in their shoes. What do they need? What could help me? And so that really always helps us with the documentation process. Looks like, I don't know, is there any other questions? Marshall had something that was cool. He's mentioned that he has two documents, one that's very rough in your own words, and then you refine it through AI. I do that a lot too, so with a lot of what I write as well, and that's a really smart way to make it more understandable. Um, yes, the citizen developer. Yeah, low code, no code, that's never going to go away. I think, it's so I think it's good that we're thinking about, who your audience is. And the other thing I love is that I guess the market, I used to be a market researcher. We use the word localization. You localize the wording, the everything. So, it makes sense in your industry, in your field versus using Quickbase language or using your language. So it completely, makes more sense. So
Yeah,
that's a really good thing.
absolutely. Yeah, language is really important in using it. But Dwight, thank you so much for putting that in the chat. I've already copied it. I'm gonna save that and follow your recommendations with ChatGPT. So yeah.
Awesome. Any other, I guess, contributions or questions for Melissa or feedback on how folks are documenting as they're building or managing? I saw Nicole mention she's got to take a bunch of vitamins.
She kept saying things. I'm just like, she's like, I'm gonna age myself. I was waiting for her to say something like access. I was just gonna fall.
Oh, oops, that's a bad word. But yes, I know
access.
I like what you said though, Esther, and it's kind of something I always say is like, I tried to build for Nicole 6 months from now. So I don't go back and go,
Absolutely.
what was this about? What do we do? So just that, and documentation is a dirty word and I hate it, but I love it 6 months from now. So
Yeah, that's my little soapbox
mhm.
lecture. It's not a lecture, it's too short for that. But if you're writing out something, if you're updating something, if you're in a formula and you had to work out the logic to figure it out,
Mhm.
put in some comments. It's anywhere that you have put something and you can put a comment. You don't think
Mhm.
you need a comment really. you still need a comment. Comment it anywhere
Mhm.
you can, everywhere you can.
I
Um,
also like to comment out what was the previous, like if I'm updating a formula, don't delete what was there. Like you
mm,
do like
refer
two little
back.
slashes
Yeah.
and it's still there. And then you do your update with what like and then because we live in a system with an intakes, system with tickets. So I like to put the little ticket number there because then I can go back to why did I do this? Who made me do this? And that's kind of my little
Smart.
philosophy. And then when they change their mind, I can just erase and put it back.
Uncomment.
Uncomment
I was just
their
about to say that. That's
previous
what
one.
I,
Yeah.
it's the easiest way to go about it. Plus, I always date it because
Yeah.
And
if you
that's
don't,
that's one of the things I'm kind of worried about is I have
Mm,
several of those don't touch fields that have
mm,
really long histories that are all commented out. So I always put the most
mm-hmm.
recent at the top. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna leave that in there. I don't know if any Quickbase
Soon
experts on
as
here
you
would say
delete it,
You'll need it,
I'll need
right?
it.
you'll need
Yeah, or
it
somebody
every
will need
time.
it. But does it
Hmm.
cause any kind of resource issue with having all of that old commented stuff in there? No, it's good. Okay,
I don't
good.
think it makes the
It just
memory of the
ignores it.
formula field
It
any
just
more
ignores
than
it then. Good,
I will
good.
say if it's like a formula query, which is I don't know what's dirtier than a dirty word, it will kind of it still looks at those like the commented part I've found that it's like,
Really?
yeah, it could, this was years ago because I don't play with, I mean, had a formula query and did the whole commenting out the formula query to update it because we're like, we went through the relational way and yada, yada, yada. And I found that the performance was still having an issue because it was just in there. And then, this was months later, so deleted just what was hashed out and just like that, it started working better. I was kind of like,
Interesting.
huh. So, but as far as like regular like text formula fields or numerics or anything like that, I haven't found that, the whole bibliography of what happened to this thing was in effect.
Good.
So,
In
but
theory, it should
again, Maria,
not.
I know you're like, I'm going to product on this right now, but I was saying that was years ago. I think since not a problem.
I have to be honest, I haven't done a lot of formula queries that
Mm-hmm.
have had that whole long history. So I never say never.
Never say never. Yeah.
I have seen some strange things. Never say never.
Yep, yep, yep.
I
So,
remember
Melissa,
to put my
totally.
comments in just right after I've done deleted and saved. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, shit, I shouldn't have deleted anything.
Mm-hmm.
Precisely. So, Melissa, are you totally off subject, but on subject? Are you leaving Quickbase
Right
building
now,
and no?
I
Oh,
right now I am. I would love to not be, but yeah, right now I am.
okay.
So yeah,
Just keep your
yeah,
salesperson's email in hand, right?
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. I really love the product. I've loved the time. It was a second career for me to do this
Mm-hmm.
work. And so, yeah, I'm a big proponent of it.
Keep coming to the
Really
meetups.
enjoy it. What's that?
Just
Come to
keep
meet
coming
up.
to the meetups. That's a
Yeah.
So
good way,
welcome and
honestly,
part of the family.
to like stay
Yeah. You
connected to the
never really
product.
leave, right?
You
You're
never
never really
know.
gone.
You never know.
Right,
You could
right.
be at your new job and they're like, if only we had a database that was worth
Oh no,
something.
trust me. Yeah, yeah. I'm working on a small little side project right now with the city of
Mm,
Pittsburgh, and
mm-hmm.
quick face in here.
Scott,
You
you
know
could
what?
check out, but you can never leave.
Right.
Right.
Right. I love that.
Can we put that on a
Hotel
Quickbase sticker?
Quickbase.
That's a cruise sticker right there, Ben.
There
That's
you
a cruise
go.
sticker.
T-shirts, t-shirts. There you
T-shirts. I
I
love the
love it.
t-shirts. Is that
Quickbase.
trademarked?
Never leave.
You can never leave.
It's
That's awesome.
awesome.
This was cool. Are we getting a slide deck or do I have to keep all my screenshots?
Yes, I will be sharing a slide deck with the recap. Melissa